family who endured so much pain and turmoil, and of course my wife and my daughter, who I couldn't have gotten through this without them. So. And of course, WFMU, who's been amazing throughout, and Kem Fredman, who opened his doors to me and has regretted it ever since. So.
Well, that's a good place for me to start. I'm going to start with a couple of questions, but that's sort of for both of you. So, for you, what was it like to have his presence and his camera in the offices of the station?
It was not a problem. I actually wanted him there a lot more. We got used to him very, very quickly.
Good. All right. And for you, I mean, how you worked on it for how long?
I shot it for probably 3 years. And then a little bits after that, but 5 years altogether. So 2009.
That's great.
Yeah, that's great.
But it was like 25 years before that people
yeah,
started.
I should actually point out, is Phil Catalano is here. Phil actually worked on a FMU documentary way before I did. And a lot of the archival footage that you see in this film is his work, and I am exceptionally grateful to him because it was really like a baton pass that made this possible, and really gives a lot more depth to this film than I would ever have been able to capture.
So, revisiting this on screen, I mean, it's not everybody becomes a documentary subject, even in this day and age. Are there moments that are cringeworthy for you? Are there moments where you are like reinvigorated in the work that you do? Like, talk a little bit about seeing yourself.
The whole fucking thing is cringeworthy. Every moment that I'm on the screen, I'm cringing. Kim tells me that's proof that I'm not a sociopath.
That sounds about right.
I never said that.
I mean, I have some questions, but I'd love to open it up to the audience, you know, to have your turn as well. So don't be shy.
I have a question.
Yes.
What time is the Jurassic Park showing?
That's about 30 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
Any other questions that we can take from the audience? I'll continue that. So, I mean, I guess.
Right
sorry,
here.
over here. Yes, please.
Rob.
Tons. There's tons, and you know, my hope is to create a kind of online library of other moments. You know, there's these beautiful. Honestly, it just it was painful in some ways to edit this film because FMU is so many things. It's not just this. This is my particular version of FMU at a very particular time. And to make this particular story work, so many things had to fall away. So many great people that make FMU happen every day. You know, Brian Turner is barely in this film. You just see him. He's an important part, if anyone knows FMU, of the station. Liz Berg. You know, there's just endless number of DJs that I could talk about who have inspired me and probably inspired me to make this film. But ultimately, unfortunately, aren't in this particular version. And I hope that I can make those live on, those parts live on once I recover from this version.
Well, I have a question for both of you, and again, we'll have questions from the audience as well. But I'll start with you actually. What is the most memorable and unusual thing that you brought to the station, like in terms of an act, not an act, but you know, like a performer or a series that you brought into the station?
You mean in terms of radio?
In terms of radio programming. Sorry,
programming?
Yes.
Yeah. God, man, what a horrible question.
Putting you on the spot.
I love them all equally. Every day is Children's Day. All the DJs are wonderful. I mean, you know, you showed Tom Sharpling's show on there. Like, you know, that's a program that's just like an absolute phenomenon. That is not just a phenomenon for WFMU. Tom Sharpling's best show in WFMU is a phenomenon for radio worldwide. There's really no program that managed to do what he did. I'm convinced that he set public radio fundraising records. The movie showed him raising $80,000 in one show, but he went way beyond that. I think his last full marathon, he raised $250,000 during his 2 times on the air. And so, that's, if you're asking me for an outstanding program, and also, comedically, him and John Worster, his comedy partner.
Underrepresented in this film.
Yeah, and Tom and John's comedy, there's none of it in the movie, so it's a little hard to figure out why people go so crazy for Tom Sharpling.
Well, so maybe if I reframe
From
it,
the movie.
If I reframe it, how about like the one sort of bit of radio programming that you've done that has gotten the most divisive kind of response from listeners?
Ha! The most divisive program that we've ever had is, well, the most divisive program we've ever had is still on the air right now, JM in the AM. Yeah, I mean, it caused the Palestinian-Jewish conflict, that one program.
All right, we'll open it up again to the audience. Right there, please.
Did your interest in making it start as a listener, or did you know something about the culture of the station that made you think it was an apt subject?
I was a huge fan. I came to New York City in 1989. This is before the internet, so you wanted to find new music outside of what the corporate radio was serving you, which was very limited. You just got out your radio and you went down to the bottom of the dial and just said, okay, what do they have in this town? And it took me about a year to discover, oh right, this is actually a radio station. They didn't have the normal branding that you would hear, like to just reassure a viewer of what they were listening to. And the program was so diverse. I'd catch it one week and be like, oh, that was great. And then I'd turn on the next day and be like, where did that radio station go? This is awful. So it was, and slowly it just became just great sonic wallpaper for inspiration, for being, and a great companion. Listening to those DJs were, they were friends. So I loved the station, and then for me, the big question that I always ask is, why isn't the rest of the world more like this? I mean, I don't want to be in that world all the time, but I want more of FMU spread out in all different kinds of ways. So that for me was really it. Why? Why not? And this, for me is an expression of that. It's an expression of the fact that it's really hard. And it came because of a weird freak accident of things that happened, and Kem Fredman, and Uppsala College going away, and just a period in time in history, So, sort of answers it.
That answers it. Up here, right here, please.
Yeah, there's two things. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you for including that piece of footage with the guy who was the consistent volunteer. It was incredibly, incredibly moving. I know it was really not explicitly connected to the arc you were creating, the narrative arc. He was so much a part of, so representative of how inclusive an environment it really is. It was incredibly moving. It was a beautiful, beautiful moment. But I also wanted to ask you, you seem to have made a choice, and I think a really wise one, to have there be this, you're telling a story, a very kind of tense, dramatic story about, will they make it, are they going to make it, this very tense, dramatic arc that you created, which I assume necessitated the elimination of lots and lots of other stuff. Did you go into the film with the idea that you were going to structure it this way narratively, or did that kind of come about as a result of shooting and thinking about how you were going to put things together?
So did everybody hear the question? Okay, so let me just quickly repeat it.
Yeah, please.
So the first part was just a thank you to including the volunteer in there.
Nick the Bard.
Nick the Bard.
Yes.
Is Nick the Bard here
He's
tonight?
here tonight.
Nick the Bard!
Nick now has his own show there. Please listen.
And the question was, the film is so much structured around this idea of like, will they make the goal, will they not? Was that, and that necessitated leaving a lot of things out possibly, but was that something you went in thinking would be the structure of the film, or did it come out through the organic process of making the film and following the story?
I started as a documentary film editor, so I was already aware of the pitfalls of people coming and saying, I really love this subject. Why can't we just make an hour and a half of stuff about them? And I really like that, and let's just keep putting more stuff that I like about them, and kind of cool stuff that they did. And ultimately I knew that was a challenge. I knew that we would need something to keep people engaged, and first make people fall in love with the station, try to translate that love that I felt to them, and then say, you know what, something like this could go away. So, at the very beginning, having a marathon, I didn't really think, oh my God, they would have this amount of struggle during the period. I just knew we were going to, attach it to a marathon, maybe follow them for a year, have a marathon and then another marathon, and then I'd be done with it like in a year and a half. But that didn't happen. So, but yes, that was part of thinking, and then it spiraled out of control.
As so many things do.